Hey, sis, and welcome back to the Sisters Podcast. I'm Lois.
I'm Lydia.
This is week 2 of the significance of our choices. And in this week, we are going to cover, if you've already seen the title, you're ahead of me. We are going to cover family, career, finances, where to live, and friends. Yes. So 5 very important things. Last week, obviously, it took us a whole episode to cover dating and marriage and divorce. So now we have 5 things in one episode. So we're going to zoom through these, starting out with, according to Google, the second most important decision that you will make in your life is family planning, deciding whether to have or adopt children. This follows in the importance of picking a spouse, I would say, after choosing to become a Christian and choosing a spouse. This is the third most important decision, because if you decide to have children, then you and your spouse are now responsible for raising these children in the Lord. You are their primary caregiver for their soul. Their well-being too, of course, that is obviously a priority, but far too many parents care about their children's physical well-being or their intelligence or their sporting or musical talents, instead of having them at the church every single time the doors are open.
Especially sports.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times sporting events fall on Sundays or Wednesday nights. And it makes me sick. Obviously, I'm not a parent yet. I have not gotten to that. But as an outsider looking in, it makes me sick to see parents pushing all of these successful things in the world's view, but not pushing them to be successful in the Lord's view. Yeah. Not raising them in the Lord, not raising them to love the Lord, to serve others as Christ wants them to serve. Because as a parent, that is the most important thing that you can do. And if you do make the decision to bring children into the world, you now have that on your plate. Some verses to go along with this: Ephesians 6:4 and Proverbs 22:6. And I've said this before, but your child can grow up to be the president of the United States. But if your child is not right with the Lord, then you have failed as a parent. If you did not raise them in the Lord, they might be the most successful person, the richest person on earth. But if they are not a Christian, then it doesn't matter. None of that matters. If you didn't raise them in the Lord, then you are also partially responsible for that.
Yeah. When I think there's a lot of faithful Christian parents that have raised their children, that their children have become adults and they've made the decision to leave. And that's very different. That is very different. But if you have raised your children to see that true success is living your life and going to heaven, then that's the ultimate goal. True success is not becoming the most popular baseball player or being able to say that you have achieved some big degree. Yes. It's saying that I'm going to spend eternity in heaven with God. But throughout the Old Testament, when it comes to choosing whether or not to have children or adopt children, throughout the Old Testament, we see this small but very mighty phrase over and over again, where God says, be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply, to Adam and Eve, to Noah, just continually throughout the Old Testament. And I don't know at what point children started to be seen as burdens, especially in the 21st century. The amount of parents, and especially moms, that I have worked with or that I've overheard at the grocery store who have just talked about their children being the biggest burdens, it makes me so sad. Because at what point did children stop becoming blessings and instead are burdens now? They cost money. They suck so much life out of me that I just don't have anything else to give. And they're now my whole life. And it's just sad.
There's a negative view on it.
Yeah, the things that they say go on. And it really just hurts me, especially when they say those things around their children, when their children are in earshot and they hear their parents or their mom saying, yeah, my children are burdens. I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'm a burden now.
And not even just saying that, but just constantly complaining or constantly just having that, oh, well, I have to do this. Oh, well, so-and-so this and everything. That really does take a toll on your children.
It does. And like, oh, my parents don't want me. Like, then you start to have those thoughts. So I'm just, all of that in general just makes me very, very sad. Because children are blessings, they're not burdens. And if couples are able to have children and they are ready to steward their souls for the Lord, then children should be seen as a blessing in that marriage and not as a burden. There's something beautiful about knowing that you are raising children for God's glory. And they are souls that can lead other souls to heaven for generations to come. And God will always provide the financial necessities for you to be able to have more and more children. They're blessings. Psalm 127, 3-5 says, behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb, a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. So I think scripture never talks about children being burdens, but instead God constantly is telling families and parents, have children. If you can have children, then have them. If you can adopt them, then adopt them. But children are always going to be blessings.
And Lydia and I obviously do not have children, but we are people's children or people's child.
Yeah.
So just like some questions that I kind of had for you, and just from obviously parenting advice from somebody who is not a parent is frowned upon, but just some questions to ask yourself just from a genuine heart. But if you already are a parent, what are you doing for your child's soul? If you want, you can pause and write these down and then answer them later on, because I'm going to go pretty fast. But what are you doing for your child's soul? Do they see you put Christ first in every single decision that you make? Do you bring them to church every time the doors are open? Prioritizing it over sports, over social outings, etc. I think I've mentioned it on here before, but I grew up playing softball and we had practice every Wednesday night. But my coaches and my teammates knew at 6:45 I would be leaving. I would be going to Bible study. I would change in the car and I would go to Bible study. That is a rule that I had in my house. I would not miss church or gospel meetings for sports. I missed games because of gospel meetings. I missed practice, the last half of practice every week. And I did have to pay consequences for that with my team. But in my mind, I'm still so thankful for it today, because that showed me where's my priorities at? Where are my priorities at? What's coming first now? And that also shows that to your coach and to your teammates of who you're representing. She loves Christ so much that she's willing to sacrifice in her sport. She's willing to pay the price of running extra laps, stuff like that, that you as a parent have the responsibility to enforce that on your child. And I'm so thankful that was enforced on me, because now it's like my priorities were from the beginning of my life were put into place that God will be first. If the church doors are open, we will be there. If there is something that needs to be done, we can do it. If the widows are needing visitors, we will go visit them.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. Your kids shouldn't be left out of these things. Your kids should be a part of these things. And your kids should also see you living it in your life. They should see you reading God's word. They should see you serving. They should not just hear you say those things, but see you actually live it out faithfully.
Yeah. That's what I was just going to say is growing up, yes, we did all the things. Yes, my parents had us at every service. Every time the doors were open, we were there. Every time we needed to be somewhere serving, we were there. But more than that, I saw my parents with their Bibles were left on the table from the studying that they had done that day. Or even still when I go to my parents' house and I spend the weekend with them, or even if I'm just over on a Saturday, my dad's studying for his Bible class that he's teaching on Sunday. Like, it is always a priority in their life. And seeing that and watching them live it out makes me be able to see, even now as a 27-year-old, reflecting back on my life as a child, just to see like my parents lived it day in and day out. Like, they chose Jesus every day. And that's the best thing that you can give to your kids, is living it out in your own life and not just saying the things, but also acting upon them too.
Actually living it out.
Yeah,
absolutely. The third most important decision, that work choice that we make in our lives, according to Google, is our career and education, choosing a profession, taking a new job, quitting a job, or pursuing higher education.
It's a lot.
That was a mouthful. But another inevitable choice that we make is, and one that I would say comes with a lot of pressure, at least for me. People still have very strong opinions for what I should do with my life. And the advice that I would give to somebody younger than me, who I'm sure will feel the pressure as I have, is what is the best thing for you to do to be a disciple of Christ? How can you best use your talents to serve others and to serve God? Whether that is going to school to be a nurse or going straight into a career that might not even require extra schooling, whatever it is that you choose, whatever path you choose, how can you best serve God? I chose not to go to college. I was given many opinions on that. I was just telling Lydia this, but actually recently I had a lady tell me that I was too pretty to not go to college and I was throwing my life away, which I don't even know what that means as to how pretty
how are you
college.
supposed to take that?
I don't really know for sure. But this is just one of the many comments that I've received over the past 4 years of people just telling me, like, you didn't go to college? What are you doing? Why would you do that to yourself? You're throwing your life away. That's not a good decision. And I would say that's probably, I'm not the only one who is receiving points like that. So if you are receiving comments like that, I would just encourage you, what is best for you in serving God? And Lydia is going to talk about this some more as well from a different perspective too. But I am so blessed to be able to work in a form of ministry for my work and use the talents that God has given me. I am so thankful. I thank God every day for my job and for the opportunities that He has given me. That's what was best for me. And I'm so thankful for that. But whether that's what you choose to do or if you choose to go a different route, just keep God first in that is what I would encourage you to do. Because the choices that you make regarding your education after high school will impact your life, not just for today, obviously, but for your future. Think about where you want to be. Think about what is coming up in your future.
I couldn't have said any of that better myself. And I think that there are so many more options than just college. And college today is not what it used to be 100 years ago. And it's not for everybody. When I was 18, I had no plans to go to college. And all I had ever dreamed of being was a wife and a mom. That was going to be my job. And my dad kind of had to hit me with reality when I turned 18 and I was graduating from high school. And he's like, okay, so what's the plan? And I'm like, well, the plan is to get married and have kids. And he's like, and let's be realistic because you are not dating anyone right now. So what's the plan? And, I had to come head to head and say, okay, what am I going to do? And so my dad and I sat down. I ended up deciding to go to college. But when we sat down and really crunched the numbers and looked at, well, if I make the decision to go to a Christian university, which I really wanted to go to, I was going to come out with a lot of student loans. And so then we kind of sat down and we calculated, well, if you go to community college and you work through college part-time, you can cash flow everything and you can graduate with a degree, the same degree you'd get there, but it's all paid for and you're debt-free at that point. And after we sat and looked at everything and calculated, and I'm so grateful that my parents, were just informed enough and were able to inform me of hey, let's make the best choice that we can with this because it's up to you. We're not helping you out. This is your decision. And so I made the choice to do community college. And really my dad's advice in that was, I just want you to do something that you can take care of yourself until you get married. And if something happens later down the road, you're able to take care of your family. Mm-hmm. And if there's one piece of advice that I would give you, it's this. I want you to think long term. And Lois said that. Think 5 to 10 years from now. But if you choose college, how many student loans will you have to take out? Mm. Yes, the Christian university might give you a great experience and you might meet a lot of great friends and you might be going for your MRS degree. And that's great. But I know a lot of friends that came out of a Christian university that don't have someone
MRS degree.
Yeah, they don't have an MRS degree. They don't have someone that they're doing life with. They're not married. And so here they are. That's why they chose to go. And they have a bunch of student loans that they're trying to pay back. So what will those monthly payments look like? Do you hope to be a stay-at-home mom one day? And if you do, could that debt that you take on now limit you from doing that later on? My mom is a pharmacist and she stayed home with us and she homeschooled all 4 of us kids. She works full time now and she works with a lot of women who made the choice to go to college. And now the debt is much higher for pharmacists than it was when she graduated, but she works with a lot of women who have had to work full time because they don't have the option to not work because they have so many student loans to pay back and they wish they could stay home with their kids, but they can't. And so I would just urge you to consider, really calculate your decision and know that when you sign off on that, that's your debt that you have to pay for until it's all paid off. And so what do you want to do? But just choose wisely. College isn't for everyone. 2 of my brothers went to tech school. And looking back, honestly, it's a path that I wish I would have taken. I wish I would have known about. No one really talks about it. You can go be a cosmetologist. You can go be an RN. You can be a physical therapist assistant. You can be an ultrasound technician. There are so many choices that you can make in just a 2-year degree. And you can make a really decent living for yourself and even do it part-time after you have kids. But the point isn't that one path is better than the other. It's about wisdom. It's about stewardship and stewarding the time that you have wisely and the money that you have wisely. It's about making decisions today that align with the life that you want to build tomorrow and doing it with God at the center of all of it. So that was a lot, but it's a lot of advice that I wish I would have gotten when I was younger and a lot of support that I wish I would have had from other people within the church or even friends of just make the best decision for you. And it might not be college and that's okay.
And whatever you do, just don't be lazy. I would say just don't be lazy in it. Of course, the famous verse in Ecclesiastes that every athlete uses, he uses is whatever your hands find to do, do with all of your might. And we're also told if anyone won't work, neither shall he eat in 2 Thessalonians 3:10. And we see repeatedly in the Proverbs a negative view on laziness. So whatever you choose to do, just do it well, do it good.
Yeah.
Well, hard work will bring glory to God because God loves a hard worker. 1 Corinthians 10:31 too.
Yeah, and if we're doing all of our work as unto the Lord, then we're going to be successful, even if we're not making the most money or doing the most, the biggest thing that we, if we're not Hollywood actors, which let's not be that anyways, but there's a lot of things that we could do and be successful in the in worldly terms, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be successful spiritually. I've worked in the corporate world and I have felt the pressure to climb the career ladder, and it's the worst. And it's the worst as a woman because it really makes you feel like you're having to live in your masculinity, and it's exhausting. But I made the choice to leave that behind. It was a hard decision to make several years ago. And I've taken a job that I enjoy, that offers flexibility, and that allows me to be able to work. And it's something that when I get married, if and when I get married and have a family, that I can step back from, do it part-time or on the side. And it's going to allow me to be able to make a little bit of extra money for my family if I wanted to. But to not have the pressure of climbing a corporate career ladder, just to take that off is it's just refreshing. And it's nice to just have a job that is steady and something that I'm able to do well, but not stress myself out with trying to climb this career.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times the worldly view of success can creep into our lives and creep into the expectations that are laid on us as to, well, if you make this much money, then you are successful. If you have this title, then you are successful. If you have this peer group, you are successful. But in reality, I just want to be a wife and mom.
Yeah.
You just want to be a wife and mom. I want to serve my family well.
That's the highest career that a woman can have is to be able to do that. And if you can't, that's a totally different thing. But I mean, that is the greatest honor as a woman, the highest honor and role that we can have.
And you can work and be a great mom. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a problem with hitting my mic. It's a problem. But I also want to say that you don't have to stay home full time to be a good mom and to be a successful mom and like that worldview of success. I think you could be an amazing mom and work full time as well. But also, if you're putting your job ahead of your family and ahead of your children, then that's an issue.
Yeah. But it's also good to want that too. Like it's also good to want, it's okay to want to be a stay-at-home mom. I feel like now if you are a high school graduate and people say, what are you going to do for a career? And you're like, well, I just want to get married and have a family. And you are dating someone and maybe you're engaged. That's okay. Like no one should make you feel bad for that because you're doing something that the Lord wants you to do. And there's something to be found in that. So when you're making education and career choices, think about future you, think about your future family, pray about everything and surround yourself with wise counsel. One thing I know for sure is that God will always open doors of opportunity for you that allow you to serve him more. Always. Always. When you're praying about stuff, God is always going to open up those doors of opportunity. I've seen it firsthand in my own life. And I've prayed about things of just like, God, like this job is taking me away from you and allowing me to do work for you. Please open up opportunities. Show me where I need to go. And he always does. It never fails. Maybe not my timing, but it always works out the best way. So we can have plans for ourselves and plan out our futures, but it's the Lord's purpose that matters, not mine. And Proverbs 19:21 says, many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. And I think if we keep that in mind, then we're going to make good choices when it comes to our education and our careers.
That's very true. And also like, I think there are some people who cannot afford to stay home who would like to stay home too. And like you talked about this too, taking on the debts from college and everything and just understanding. I also want to just say one more time that we understand if you are a woman and you are working, that you are still loving your family, you are still serving God well. Just keeping that in check too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do something as a woman. It's good. It's okay to pick a career that you can do on the side and even part-time to bring in some extra money for your family as well.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think that's a smart and wise decision to make.
I think so too. I love that. Okay. Number 4, location and housing, buying a home or moving to a new city or state. There are some questions that I would ask before moving to a new city. Y'all know I love questions. What is the local church like? Is it sound and active? Are there kids your kids' age in the youth group? Is it a move or a city that will give you more opportunities to serve God and grow closer to his people? Or is it a move for financial gain and pleasure?
Yeah. And like Lois said, where can you be the biggest blessing for the Lord? I mean, I think that if we can keep that question at the forefront of our mind every day, then we're always going to make good decisions when it comes to that. But sometimes the church in the area you're considering moving to, it might be small. It might not be the congregation that you're used to, especially in the South. I know we have congregations on every corner, but if you're moving to Texas, I mean, I have friends that drive 45 minutes to get to worship. Or if you move to Maine or to Colorado, like it's going to be different areas where you might encounter some hurdles or have to overcome some things. But that could be a beautiful opportunity too, because what if you have the opportunity to be the salt and the light to that community, to reach souls that might not have been reached for him if you didn't make that move? And then you also need to ask yourself if this is somewhere you can build strong community with God's people, because location is not just about the cost of living or job opportunities, but it's about your spiritual environment as well. I know a couple, they left their home in Alabama, South Alabama, to move to Alaska for the husband's job. He had graduated from his doctorate program. They moved to Alaska, and 3 kids later, they're still there and they love it. They love being there, and they don't have biological family nearby. But because of that, they've grown incredibly close to their church family, and they've said that it's one of the best decisions that they've ever made is being there, because it's caused them to rely on God's people and not
rely
just
on each other. So I'm sure it's good for their marriage.
Yeah. So I just thought that was a different perspective too, of like, sometimes those scary choices of making a move somewhere else might be scary in the moment, but could also turn out to be one of the biggest blessings. I know for my family, we left our family in Georgia when I was 6 and moved to Alabama and then Tennessee, and we've been there ever since. And my parents say all the time, we would not have grown as much spiritually had we not made that move. And I'm very grateful that they made that decision.
And you can also move back. Move's not permanent.
Again, it's a choice. It's a decision. You can always make those choices again.
So. Very true. Okay, decision number 5, or choice number 5. Financial and lifestyle, investing money, managing personal finances, and choosing to act as a risk taker or avoider. Oh, Google is really getting me today. It's important to remember our money choices start with ownership. Of course, we're taking these points and turning them back to a biblical perspective. God owns it. We manage it. Psalm 24 verse 1 reminds us that everything that we have ultimately belongs to God. And that verse says, "The earth is the Lord's and all of its fullness, the world and those who dwell therein." And of course, every good and perfect gift cometh from above. James 1:17. I cannot talk today. This is kind of a problem. But the desire for financial gain and the love of money has ruined many good people, because it's easy to forget who it came from and get caught up in the worldly comforts that money offers. We know that money in and of itself is not wrong, but rather the love of it, 1 Timothy 6:10. But we are commanded to be good stewards and to honor God with what we have, with our finances, and we can be if we are intentional about it. We see in Proverbs 21 verse 5, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to plenty, but those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty." I gather from this verse the idea of being careful and intentional with money rather than being quick and careless with it. Of course, quick decisions, emotional spending, and constant lifestyle pressure often lead to regret and poor use of the money that God has given us. Some thoughts and questions that I would ask is, what would others think that my priorities are if they are looking at the lifestyle that I live? Am I modeling generosity or constantly upgrading for personal gain? Am I teaching my family that success equals possessions and status? Are my financial choices helping me to serve God more or distracting me from Him? Am I working harder to become financially well off than I am working to serve God and to help in His kingdom? The significance of our financial and lifestyle choices is really not found in how much that we have, but in how faithfully we use what God has entrusted us with.
Yeah. And I think, like Lois mentioned, 1 Timothy 6 and verse 10, it's not that money in and of itself is evil.
No.
It's that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And the danger is not having money. The danger is trusting it and finding all of our hope in it. It's the moment when we begin to rely on our riches and forget who gave them to us that we start to be in trouble. And it's one of the reasons that I love Hebrews 13, verses 5-6. It's one of my favorite passages. And it says, keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have. For he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Okay, why does he say that? So that we can confidently say that the Lord is my helper. I will not fear what can man do to me. Not that money's my helper, not that I provide for myself, I can do this. But we're called to be content and to keep ourselves free from the love of money. Why? So that we can confidently say that the Lord is my helper. Mm-hmm. He's the one that provides for me. He's the one that takes care of me. And I'm content with what I have because he's the one that's given it to me. And I think when we can keep that mindset, then we can keep our mind right and we can make good choices when it comes to financial things because we're trusting that God's going to take care of us. We're not going to have so much love for our money that we are just holding tight to it because we've earned this ourselves and we're trusting it to take care of us, but instead just saying, I'm trusting God. The moment that we rely on our riches, we start to believe that we're the ones sustaining ourselves when God says, I'm the one that's here to sustain you.
Yes.
And, having money is not a bad thing. Again, there are a lot of really wealthy people who are Christians and who do a lot of really good things with their money. And
the church needs money.
The church needs money.
Good works. And absolutely.
We wouldn't have ministries like the podcast or even polishing the pulpit we have to have money to do those things. And so being successful and having wealth is fine. But the moment we start to love it and trust in money instead of trusting in God, that's when it gets dangerous. So, choose to be a good steward with what God has given you. Set aside money for giving, saving, and spending. Create a budget and consult it before making any big financial decisions. Live on less than you make. I think all of these things are very common sense, but there are a lot of things that people don't live out. And so those are very small choices that you can make in your day-to-day life that make a big difference. And love him or hate him, but Dave Ramsey has a lot of really great resources that can help you build a basic financial budget so that you can start taking care of your family and making sure that you do have money left over to, spend on things that you do want to spend them on, but first that you're giving your first fruits to God. Mm-hmm. And that's the ultimate priority because he's the one that we're being grateful to. So I think there's a lot of choices we can make when it comes to finances. And there's a lot of ways that we can steward our money poorly, but there are a lot of really good things we can do with them too.
You usually see a negative view on money, I think, in the church, because I think, like we said, the love of money is what's evil, not the money itself, but that money can be a dangerous thing just because of what money offers. Mm-hmm. But the heart behind it is really what pushes what happens. Yeah. So just making sure your heart is right and your intentions are good and you're generous with it and you're serving God with it, because you can use money to get the gospel to so many people. You can support missionaries. You can support works like House to House, like polishing the pulpit, and things that are getting the gospel out and strengthening Christians with that money. We couldn't do any of that without financial.
Yeah. So. And you can have nice things and you can have nice clothes and do fun things, but there's nothing wrong with any of that. And I think sometimes we say oh, money's bad, and money's not bad. Those things are fine, but we just need to make sure that we're not trusting in money to sustain us in life or in our taking pride in what we're making, and instead saying all of this came from God. Going back to what you said. Yeah, it all goes back to who it came from, and reflecting on James 1:17, every good and perfect gift comes from above, and God's the giver of all good things. And so how are we using it? And those choices that we're making with our money, that's what matters.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, we're already out of time. The sixth most important decision is personal well-being, committing to health, diet, exercise, caring for family members, and defining your personal values. I actually think that this topic is not talked enough about in the church, because what choices we make for our bodies matter. It really does matter. What we do for our bodies matters how we act spiritually as well. Mm-hmm. And how we treat our bodies reflects how we value what God has given us. And he's entrusted us with our lives, with our bodies. And if we don't take good care of ourselves, we're not going to be able to serve him to the full capacity that we could. And so I think it's important to talk about, but we need to be serving him in every way that we can. And of course, the typical voice of your body is your typical verse about your body being a temple, which is talking about in sexual purity. But at the same time, our bodies do belong to him. He has given them to us, but we need to be treating them good. We need to be active. We need to be, and I think we're going to go into more about also our minds and that side of things, but it all goes together spiritually. And that's important to talk about.
Yeah. I love what Lois said there, because it's not about perfection. It's about having your body be available for service to God. And if we're in bed sick all the time, or we're too tired to do things, and we're not taking care of ourselves physically, then we're not able to be all that we can be for God. And so I think that is something to really consider. Being active and making healthy choices on a daily basis is about taking care of the body that God has given us. And I mean, I think of 1 Corinthians 6:19-20. And in context, I know it's talking about sexuality, but I think it also just comes into play of our body is a temple. It is the temple. And if we're not taking care of it, then what are we doing? Because this is the only body we've been given. And it's the body that allows us to do things for the Lord. And so become a healthier version of yourself. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of intentionality. It's going to take maybe you walking, just making 15 minutes in your day to just go for a walk and just get out to breathe some fresh air. And that will make a huge difference. Choosing good healthy foods, and making sure that you're being mindful of what you're putting in your body and what you're fueling your body with. But then also there's the mental side of it too, and making sure that you're taking care of yourself mentally and spiritually. And
what
I think
putting into your mind,
all of those things go together. It's just a full picture, because if you feel good physically, then you have time to take care of yourself spiritually, which then allows you to have good mental health, which then allows you to have it's just this big cycle. And so truly, we are a whole person, and you can't just focus on one aspect. You have to focus on everything. And counseling is one of the best things that I ever did for myself, because it allowed me to take care of myself physically, or take care of myself mentally, so that I could then care for myself physically. And it has just helped me to continue growing spiritually as well.
And small daily decisions about rest, stress, priorities, and self-care shape our spiritual and emotional health. Like Lydia said, it's stuff like that a full circle moment comes back to when my mind is clear because I've gotten the amount of rest that I need. I then can think better to serve God better. When my body is feeling good because I moved it and because I got out into God's creation maybe, then I'm able to serve Him. I have more energy to then pour back into my spiritual health and my spiritual life with God. I can serve better when I feel better. And that's a choice that we can make.
Yeah.
We're going to have to rush through this. But number 7, our social circle, deciding who to surround yourself with. Proverbs 13:20, he who walks with the wise will be wise, but the companion of the fools will be destroyed. And of course, show me your friends and I will show you your future is a common saying for a reason. The choice of who you surround yourself with greatly impacts your lifestyle, your habits, your mindsets, and we become more like the people we constantly hang out with, and we imitate them because we're watching them, we're around them, we're letting them influence us. So who you choose to be around is who you are choosing to let influence your mindset and your characteristics. Of course, 1 Corinthians 15:33, influence is real. Even when we think that we are strong enough, bad company will always corrupt good morals. Always.
Even if you think you're strong enough to, it won't affect me. It always does. Always.
Strong faith does not cancel out constant pressure. It doesn't. It is impossible to not be influenced at all when you are constantly being pressured. And spiritual maturity includes being honest about what influences us and what we need to change. We're told the blessed man is one who does what? In Psalm 1:1, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful.
Yeah. My advice to you would be to find Psalm 1 friends. And I think you would probably agree too.
Oh, absolutely.
Be a Psalm 1 friend and find Psalm 1 friends, because friends who will strengthen you in your relationship with the Lord and encourage you heavenward, you cannot put a price tag on that. Like that is just, it's a rare thing to find. If you have one good friend in your whole lifetime, you're extremely blessed. And if you have 2 to 3, I mean, that's just, it's an anomaly that you have that. And so I think just being mindful that surrounding yourself with good friends makes all the difference. Psalm 1:3 says, he's like a tree planted by streams of water that yields fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither, and all that he does, he prospers. And I don't know about you, but I want to be that kind of friend. And I want to find those kinds of friends. Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. The people that we choose to surround ourselves with are shaping who we become, whether we realize it or not. I've heard it said before that we become like the 5 people we spend the most time with. And so who are those 5 people for you? I mean, that's what I would ask is, who are you spending time with? Be mindful of who you follow on social media, because your friends are either helping you toward heaven or steering you away. And that does include the people that you are following.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
They're influencing you.
Yeah. And you're spending a lot of time on social media. I'm like pointing at Lois. Lois is spending a lot of time on social media
all the time.
We're spending a lot of time. There's a reason that those people are called influencers, because they're influencing you to buy their products and to think the way that they think. And so I think it would just be a disservice. It would be a disservice not to talk about choosing carefully who you follow on social media as well.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I just think about all of the influencers who are pushing these trending clothes or these trending lifestyles I travel a lot. So I see a bunch of like travel itineraries and stuff. And it's like, oh, they're going to this winery and they're going to this. Why are we letting that influence us? We shouldn't be. We need to be careful as to who we are following, who we are supporting, what we are liking, and what we are constantly feeding into our minds. It's very important.
And the language too. Like what are the words that are coming out of their mouth? Because that is influencing you more than you realize.
It is. It's making you numb to it, numb to that sin. I would just end this by saying not every enjoyable relationship is a spiritually helpful one. Mm-hmm. And God absolutely cares who our counsel is and who we are surrounding ourselves with.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Love the study. Thanks, Lydia.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, I think we covered more than 5. We said we were covering 5. I think we covered 6 in this.
Yeah. We left one out, I guess.
But thank you so much for listening to this. We hope that this has been beneficial to you and your decision making from now on. We love each and every one of you, and we look forward to seeing you again. Bye.
Bye.